Hi guys, Fernandes Lembo, the last edition of On the Grid for the new year. Is that good or bad?
Well, I think we got picked up for next year, right?
We did.
So the ratings were good.
But at reduced salaries. And we couldn't do anything about it.
You take what you can get.
So we take what we can get. But basically, it's the holiday classics, the basketball holiday classics. It's the finals today.
Yep.
So let's just jump right into them.
Sure.
We won't start with the 1 year. Let's start with the Suncoast Holiday Classic, where Riverview, ranked number 1 in 8A, takes on Covington Catholic from Kentucky.
Yep.
Riverview's on a roll. I think they're 14-1, like I said, first in 8A.
Right.
Very interesting opponent they're playing tonight, in that they're very fundamentally sound. They probably won't excite you with their athleticism, while Riverview might. I know you're at the other tournament, but when you break down this game from an observer spot, well, what do you expect to get out of this?
Well, I think this is the reason you play these tournaments, is you don't play teams from Kentucky during regular season, so you see a different style of basketball than you're used to. You mentioned different fundamentally sound stuff. I covered basketball in Indiana for about a year in 2004, and it was a lot different than what we saw down here, what I see down here now, but it's still good basketball. So I think it's an advantage for Riverview to play a team like this. This is kind of the halfway point of the season. You know, we get back next week, school's back in session. It's a lot of district games. Before you know it, we're in district tournament time. So I think it's going to be a good game for Riverview to play and see a different style and get them ready for what's down the pike.
You know, Riverview, like we've said before, always seems to have a good year.
Right.
Maybe runs into a buzzsaw at the end there. But I'm going to go out there, and I'll be at the game tonight. I want to talk to BJ Ivan and a couple of players. What separates this team from maybe some of the past teams they've had, which maybe hasn't been able to go all the way? I'm anxious to see whether this team has added a couple of pieces, and maybe they have the athleticism and the teamwork to maybe go that extra couple of games.
Yeah, and it could be the confidence thing too. I mean, like we said, beating Wellington in the city of Palms, it didn't guarantee anything in the postseason, but it gives you the confidence of we can play with any team in the state. And tonight, if they play well against Covington Catholic, we can play well with teams from outside our state, from teams we don't usually see. So that could have a thing too. The confidence goes a long way in anything, especially high school sports, where you're dealing with teenagers who are still, let's be honest, developing mentally.
Sure.
You know, I mean,
some of them never develop.
Case in point. But
hi guys.
But yeah, no. So I think it's going to be, like I said, a really good test. And I think if maybe you would have asked BJ Ivy, they would have preferred this to play a team that they're not going to see again and they haven't seen before in the finals. I think, like I said, it's why you play these tournaments, to see different teams, different styles, and to get you ready for the district push.
And I'm sure it's going to be a packed house.
Oh,
at the Ram Gym.
Yeah,
like there always is.
Should be a great atmosphere. They have that big cheering section.
Right,
I remember last year I went with you with the regional quarterfinal. They're giving away sixth man T-shirts, and it was pretty cool seeing the whole student section wearing those same T-shirts. So yeah, definitely going to be a great vibe tonight, and let's see if Riverview can end the calendar year on a really high note.
Now you're at the Willie Clemens Classic. Interesting sort of matchup. You had Southeast beating New Smyrna. I guess John Harder said that was sort of his signature win
for this season.
For this season, defending champion. But they're taking on Palmetto, 15-4, first time in the title game. Head coach Robert Kelly doing a nice win. Now, if Palmetto were to win this game, would this be their signature win?
Oh yeah, definitely, without a doubt. I mean, Coach Kelly always talks about how he's never beaten John Harder in the Southeast Seminoles, and what better time to do it than the finals of this tournament. This is the first time, as you mentioned, Palmetto's in the finals, and they beat a really good Boone team yesterday. That was honorable mention in 8A. And they beat them. You know, the game was I think it was a 5-point game. They were up by 9 at one point in the fourth quarter, and Boone fought back, made it a lot tighter game. But yeah, a big step forward, as Coach Kelly said in our story today, for Palmetto, and it would be a huge win if they were to knock off Southeast. And Southeast, as you mentioned last night, beating New Smyrna Beach, who was undefeated. Before that, they played really well, really kind of controlled the game from halftime on. So it's funny how we mentioned Riverview playing a team out of its area. This is what John Harder wanted, because this tournament only has 3 local teams, and I think he's happy to see the 2 county teams are playing for the title. He appreciates the New Smyrna Beaches, the Boones, the teams that come from out of the area to play in this tournament, but he likes that it's 2 locals playing for the championship tonight at Southeast.
Record-wise, 15-4, 12-3. I mean, obviously that's why they roll the balls out there, but does Palmetto have a legitimate shot at getting that signature win, you think?
I think they had a shot. I think Southeast is a better team. Last night Southeast shot 5 3-pointers. It's not really their game usually. They're a team that likes to score in transition, go inside. But Brianna Reed even said the inside girls for New Smyrna Beach are making it tough. So she said we just put shots up and they fell in. I think they're the better team. I think Palmetto has a chance. They have the Rozier twins, Connor and Taylor, who are very, very good. They can score from inside and outside. Tina Stevens might be one of the best players in the county, Manatee County. So, yeah, I definitely think Palmetto has a shot. I think Southeast is a better team. I think it should be a good game tonight.
Yeah, John Hodder's team's always ready to play in these type of games, and it's always fun reading his comments.
Yeah,
he's just a great guy to talk to.
He is, and the thing about Southeast girls is when they're on their game, they're so fun to watch. I mean, they're so fast. Tay Green is one of their big players. She has over 100 steals this year. I mean, the other night against Lake Gibson, she took it over. I mean, she had 14 steals, and they were legitimate steals.
That's
it was
unreal.
her. It wasn't. She just stood there. She was knocking the ball loose. They're a fun team to watch, and they're clicking. So it should be a pretty good night tonight at Southeast.
Another tournament that's sort of getting second page coverage is the Smoothie King. You got Southeast boys, I guess, playing Braden Christian.
That should be fun.
A defending champ of the tournament, 10-4 versus 13-2. Do you know anything about these two teams? I don't think we've seen Southeast boys or Braden Christian at this point.
Right, but Braden Christian, their boys team is good.
Right.
You remember there was that run in the 2000s. Every year they're in a Final Four, and they feel as if they can get back there this season. They're a really good team. They are hard to beat in that gym. That might be the gym in Manatee County that might be the biggest home court advantage because it's so small and they pack it. They pack the bleachers, they pack the balcony upstairs. So it's hard to go into that gym and beat Braden Christian. I think Southeast has a shot, though. That should be a great game. That's a late game tonight. I think it's an 8 o'clock start. If all the games,
and
cooperate.
which they rarely do. Usually they overlap, and the last game gets pushed back.
And tonight too, usually at the end of each game, the final day, you have the tournament team presentations. You give each team a trophy, so that might take some time. But that should be a really, really interesting game. Southeast and Braden Christian. That should be a playoff. We use playoff atmosphere a lot. That really should be like a playoff atmosphere because Southeast should have some fans too. Should be a nice game.
How about the girls' aspect?
Bayshore going for a three-peat.
Right, exactly. Against Braden Christian, 9-2 in their own right. Should be another good game.
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool too. It's an all-local final, in both boys and girls. So it's a lot of teams from out of the area in that tournament. So yeah, it'd be good for Bayshore to win that one again. I'm sure Braden and Christian will love a sweep, boys and girls. So that should be a pretty interesting scene tonight at Braden and Christian. There should be a lot of people there, and like I said, when that gym is packed, it's a tough place to play for the opponent. But it's a great atmosphere to be in. It gets really loud in that small gym.
I've covered several games in that gymnasium, and the way the walls just come right after the basket, it looks very, very tiny, like an old Boston Garden almost.
Yeah, and during the David Nagley years, like I said, and Scott Townsend, the coach now, is an assistant on those teams, so he knows all about how great that place can be when the team's playing well. So I'm sure he's telling his guys, hey, we get in a roll. And it really is. I couldn't imagine playing there because everyone's just literally on top of the court. I mean, it's like almost like claustrophobia sets in.
It almost doesn't seem like the court is regulation length when the walls come up to you right after the basket. Almost like are they playing on a shorter Y, half of a Y court.
I remember one year Dick Vitale showed up.
Right.
And the team Brandon Christian played, the coach was like, Dick Vitale is here? Right. How often do you go to a high school gym and you see Dick Vitale walking around? So it's a pretty special place for basketball season.
No way Dickie V sort of gets lost in a crowd that small.
Yeah, he's not really a wallflower.
No, he's not. But we should shout out that up in the Keswick Christian Holiday Tournament, the Booker girls are in the finals, and it's one of those tournaments that's away from here, so we can't really staff it. But good for the Tornado girls that they're in the finals. And check the Herald-Tribune or online tomorrow for the for the results.
If you're in this thing, if you're in these tournaments, you want to win them. Why not?
And it can provide some momentum going into the second half of the season.
Definitely. I mean, and it's funny, Coach Harder and Coach Kelly both said separately after their games, we're getting ready for next week. We're getting ready for the district push. That's what these teams are, and that's why Coach Harder wanted to play New Smyrna Beach. He wants to play Palmetto. Palmetto's a pretty good up-and-coming team. And same with Palmetto. They're playing Southeast tonight, and they played a good Boone team last night. So, yeah, it makes you better. It hardens you, and it gets you used to playing consecutive nights, which doesn't happen over the regular season a lot.
Right.
You're playing 1, 2, 3, so you really have to pace yourself and get used to that nightly grind.
And the kids love it, though. They wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I think it's fun. The holidays are over, so break's almost over, which I'm sure they don't love too much.
Right.
But they're playing some basketball, so the worst thing is to be doing on your break.
And so, as we talked about earlier, this is our last show. Quickly, we'll sort of. It's impossible to wrap up an entire calendar year of sports in a couple of minutes. But when you look back over this past year and you look at the great teams to come out of the area, what first comes to mind? Obviously, the Venice baseball team doing what they did.
They pop in my head because I've been covering high school baseball for a while here, other places. they might be the most fundamentally sound high school baseball team I've ever seen. I mean, defensively, they didn't give you anything, and they were fun to watch. Because look at their lineup; they had guys who can hit. They didn't have one or two really big hitters, but they pitched really well and they picked the ball up really well. I mean, that team never really make. Talk about well coached. I mean, Craig Faulkner, what a job he does. That whole staff with that team, and they really stick out to me the year they had.
But I know we talk about Craig Faulkner. It's cyclical in every sport. For a long time, Clyde Metcalf Sailors was sort of the major domo of the area. Now we have the Indians the last several years sort of picking up where they left off.
But Sarasota went to the state final too. They got hot and they played for the 7A title.
Exactly.
But yeah, you're right. I mean Venice is 3 titles in 4 years, 4 straight Final Fours in baseball. That's tough to do when you're facing teams aces and stuff. But yeah, both of those teams, I think, really, obviously Venice wins the state championship, but the Sarasota was pretty special too because they were kind of an ordinary team in the regular season.
And they sort of got hot.
They just got hot and one of the last 2 teams standing.
And of course, the other major sport in the area which all follow is football.
Right.
And we've broken that down before. Obviously, teams, Braden River obviously got the farthest of any team in the local area, but still, no local team to make that final push and win a state title.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll come.
Oh yeah, I mean it's hard to do, but we'll see. So yeah, definitely a great year for the Pirates, and obviously a great year for a lot of teams. And we get state champions in not volleyball, swimming, cross country. So a good spread out year, I think, in terms of every season we had some stars.
And even though he wasn't a prep guy, he certainly coached a lot of prep athletes in the area. I wrote about a couple of days ago. Maybe you had dealings with him, Tim Hill. The Manatee Community College, a longtime baseball coach, 31 years, passed away a few days ago at the age of 71. Did you know him? Did you cover many MCC games?
I covered the first game when they beat the Pirates in spring training. That was pretty cool. But one of my favorite, and it's a short story. I covered. They had a signing for a Bayshore kid. This is back in like 2006, and I covered the signing there for 5 minutes, and I left. I saw him 3 months later, Tim Hill. He's like, "Hey, John, how are you?" And he remembered who I was, and so that was a pretty impressive. That's an impression I always have of Tim Hill. Kind of like he knew who I was, and maybe that's why I connected with players and coaches so well. Definitely, he'll be missed in this area.
Yeah, and a couple of his ex-players said he wasn't more into the games; he was more into sort of developing the person, developing the player as an adult.
I read a quote from one of their programs of, "I'm not into learning the tricks of the trade. I'd rather you guys learn the trade." In other words, he wasn't a gimmicky guy.
Right.
That's what Dwayne Strong told me. He wasn't about trick plays. It's just let's learn how to play the game the right way, fundamentally, like we said about Venice, and that's pretty special too.
And I think his players realize that.
Yeah.
So, John, last game of the last day of the tournament. Next week, it all starts back up for real.
It does. Yep.
And hopefully, on the grid, we'll be back up for real.
I think we'll be here in 2016.
I think we can make room for it. So we'll be back next week. So for John Limbo, I'm Doug Fernandez. We'll see you next week on the Grid.